Hello, YouTube family. Before we begin, I love retro video games. I hope you guys like my new hat, and my dumbass left the desk audio on and the mic off, so have to restart this video. So, last week, we went through part 1 of the Super Nintendo collection, and we did not even get to the Super Famicom games yet, which you guys are gonna love. So, we're going to get to the rest of the games today, and I'm going to try to make this a little bit quick. Each review, or it's going to be not too long. I don't want to take up too much of anybody's time, because I think we're already going to fill in the time slot enough as it is. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I want to get right into it now. The last game we left off on before the video ended was Super Mario All-Stars, which is probably my favorite Mario game on the Super Nintendo, but we also got Super Mario Kart, and this is actually the gold label version. How interesting. Yes, this is a gem on the Super Nintendo, but it's definitely not the best kart racer that I've played. I mean, I think the Mode 7 graphics are definitive on this game, but here's the real head scratcher. It is far, far from the best Mario Kart game. I mean, one of those rare, absolute rare occasions I would put modern games like Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart Wii over this one because of how freaking well those games play. Even Mario Kart 64, even though I haven't played that one in a while. Mario Kart is definitely one of those games you gotta have on the Super Nintendo, but it is, as a game itself, I think it's semi-solid, but compared to the other Mario Kart games, I would definitely check the newer ones out. Everybody, or just about everybody knows, if you're a big Die-Hard retro game fan, you already know what this one is. Debatably the absolute best game on the Super Nintendo, so I'm not going to take too much of anybody's time here. There would be normally a lot to talk about with Mario World, but I think you already know what's up. 96 levels of creative madness. I mean, it's not personally my favorite Mario game, but it's definitely one that if you haven't played this one, you haven't played Super Nintendo. You've probably played other games, but you gotta play this one if you really, really, truly love Super Nintendo, because it's like the packing game. And I know you guys really dig the Mario content in the YouTube shorts. I see thousands of views on there, and which I appreciate, and I will make more, absolutely, but here's your daily dose of Mario right here. Mario Kart and Mario World, 2 classics you can never go wrong with. I'm very happy to be talking about this one right now because I played the arcade version recently, and boy, you gotta really be skilled at this game, or you gotta keep putting your credits in spelled with a K, and I'm talking Mortal Kombat 3. I skipped on a 1, I did have 2 once upon a time, but the cartridge didn't work, so I traded it in and got the 3. I said last time I had a few games that got a little bit of shade thrown at them because some people, there are people that like them and some people that don't. I think this is another one, and I like this game. I think it's a solid tournament fighter. I've definitely played worse, but for a Mortal Kombat experience on Super Nintendo, I would say it's either this or Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate, which I would recommend, but that one's a little more pricey. Not too bad, but a little more, like $40, but if you want to downgrade just a little bit, I don't think you're missing out on much here. It's still basically the same game. It's still Mortal Kombat 3. It's still a very fun game. I have a lot of Super Nintendo launch title games which are all really good, and one of those games is Pilot Wings. It even has a little price sticker on it. I got this one at I got this one at Pastimes Arcade back when they had that retro video game booth where you can buy games. And this is your flight simulator. It's like probably the only flight simulator I have in the collection. But you know what? This one is a classic. The Mode 7 and the music is pure Super Nintendo in raw form. If you want your Super Nintendo fix and you want to get submerged in Super Nintendo, this is the game for you. And, normally I wouldn't really recommend simulator games unless it's SimCity. If it's a SimCity games or other ones, there are a few exceptions, but don't let Pilot Wings drag you down because it is actually a very good game and a very well known one at that. If you love your Pitfall on the Atari 2600, which is probably the best game on that system, you're going to love Pitfall, the Mayan Adventure, which, hey, what if I told you you can actually play the Atari 2600 version of that game on this cartridge via code on the title screen or a secret passageway in level 2. That's so technically I have 2 copies of Pitfall for 2600. I have this one and the standalone Activision Atari 2600 cartridge, which we'll probably get to in another video. But as far as this game, it's obviously a lot bigger than an Atari 2600 game. Pretty cartoonish animation, which is pretty 90s. You get your Super Nintendo, and you get cartoony games like this. That's just what the system's freaking made for. And Pitfall demonstrates that pretty well. Made by Activision, solid port of the game. From what I heard, it's 1-ups over the Game Boy Advance version for sure. But the game sounds really good, it plays really well, and it looks great. It is difficult, as Pitfall games should be. And it's another one. I found this one on the shelf with a bunch of other games that are not expensive at all. And I don't normally find a lot of Super Nintendo games that are inexpensive and that good, but in this case I happen to find Pitfall. And if you find this on a shelf, I definitely recommend giving this one a shot. 3 cheers for another game that gets shade, and you know what? This time I can actually see why. This is Primal Rage. This is the port of the arcade game. This is one of those games where I would take Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Killer Instinct any day of the week over this one. I mean, I admire that they put it on the Super Nintendo as they should have. It looks and sounds really good. Gameplay, you know, I have yet to judge on that because I haven't played the Sega Genesis or CD version or the arcade version, so maybe those ones are a little bit better than this one. But I'm personally not that big of a fan of this game. I mean, I think the concept of dinosaurs and fighting games, like that one Godzilla game on the Super Famicom in Japan, or King of Monsters for the Neo Geo. I never played Godzilla on Super Famicom, by the way, but from what I heard, those and King of Monsters did impress me later on. Not immediately, but it later on did. I can go back to this one and still have the same opinion. It gets a little bit difficult. I think I played that one character who had the snake head, and I made it through most of the game until I got to the boss refights. Why? I have no idea why they put those in there, but I was so damn close to beating this game. And to be honest, you play it once, and I think it's better off if you play it with friends. If you want to practice, go ahead, but it's one of those games that's pretty hard to pull fatalities off, but yet again, when is it not? Another game that, ring, 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 hello, hold on, hello, what? This one, come on, how many games do you want me to review that a lot of people don't normally like? Oh, we're talking about R-Type? Okay. Here's Super R-Type by IRM, who makes fantastic shooters. Now, I can understand it's one of these ones that are a little bit slow. There is slowdown. I do not really understand that intro level, but once you get used to it, you will soon find out this is actually a port of R-Type 2. I mean, okay, they added a little bit to it, like that first intro level. That wasn't necessary, though. They could have just started it. They should have just called this R-Type 2 and made it a straight port of R-Type 2, which they did. Actually, one of my beefs with this game is there are no checkpoints. Oh no. You die, you have to start over from the beginning of the level even if you die on the boss. That is bullcrap. But is it truly a bad shooter? I don't think so. I mean, that logo looks super cool. Now, what is this freaking boss right here? That doesn't look like the very first boss from the original R-Type, which is mechanized in the second game. But I think I'm being a little nitpicky here. I'll tell you what, I've played far worse. As a matter of fact, I've talked about Gradius 3 in the last video, and I think that one slows down a lot more, even though that game is claimed to be the best shooter on the Super Nintendo. So, I mean, as much as this one slows down, strangely enough, I don't think it's a terrible game. And that's right, you should give this one a try too. Hadouken! Here's your Street Fighter 2. one of the very... Oh, actually, as a matter of fact, this and Super Mario World were the very first Super Nintendo cartridges I collected for the Super Nintendo when I had the Super Retro HD. And I made a video about that a long time ago. And yes, this one absolutely holds up. This is the World Warrior version. They've had multiple Street Fighters on Super Nintendo, including another version of this game, Hyper Fighting, and... Hyper Fighting? And what the hell is that other one? I'll probably put a picture on screen, because I can't really think right now. I was sitting through a 2-hour meeting this morning. But you got a good old classic Capcom. Boom! Super Tennis on Super Nintendo. It's tennis and it's super. It's Super Tennis. Mode 7. Looks great, sounds great, screams Super Nintendo. And, you know, it's tennis and it's super. It's Super Tennis. Play it. You know, it's a real damn shame. I almost kind of forgot about this one. This was kind of overlooked in the stack, but you know what? I don't understand why they call this one Tetris when it was actually a port of a game called... This is actually a port of a game from the Super Famicom called Panel de Pon, which is basically the exact same game, replaced with fairy characters, but main character is actually Yoshi in this game, and yeah, instead of going up against God knows what in that other game, you go up against Bowser and different worlds and stuff, and the gameplay itself is a very novel concept. They rebranded it as Pokemon Puzzle League on the Nintendo 64, still keeping the same formula. Should they have called it Tetris? Absolutely not. This has absolutely nothing to do with Tetris. But is it a solid game? Yes. I think it's a very, very fun scheme where you move blocks around and make them pop. It's like a very primitive version of, speaking in modern terms here, Candy Crush, but on the Super Nintendo. And, you know, I think goes above and beyond that because how well this game is truly made. So, yeah, very good puzzle game on Super Nintendo. As much as I prefer the NES version of this game, as it was the last game published by Nintendo here in North America, the Super Nintendo version of Wario's Woods ain't that bad. I think the music is superior to the NES version. That little demo music is pretty sweet. And overall, it kind of does play like the NES version, but in 16-bit. Kind of like how Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, 3 Lost Levels plays in 16-bit on Super Mario All-Stars. This is the 16-bit version of Wario's Woods. Strange concept, bizarre story, but another puzzle game I recommend for sure. Alright guys, are you ready to see the Super Famicom collection? It's not a lot, but we got some good ones here. These are all actually very cheap, by the way. Super Famicom is very good if you want to collect for Super Nintendo. You have a mean to play them, and they're actually, most of the time, they're actually less expensive than North American Super Nintendo, surprisingly enough. Just like how the PC Engine is slightly cheaper than TurboGrafx 16. But I talk about that console so fucking much on this channel. I just love the damn thing. Here's ActRaiser, an awesome game. I think a launch title. Enix, the only game I have from Enix. And you know what? Language barriers aside, I think you can get away with this game just fine. I mean, you might want to translate a couple things here and there, especially during the prayer scenes and how to get through that town building section. But even at that, I got through pretty far in the game. I got through pretty far in the game, not understanding it just fine. I mean, the platforming sections speak for themselves. Really hard game. Like, I mean, it's one of the hardest games you're going to play on the Super Famicom, but it is an awesome game. And if you could pick up this version, not common, but if you see it, jackpot. There's something I really, really don't understand about F-Zero. And no, it's not this quirky little sticker that's probably from the 90s and looks really neat, and I will not take it off. It's this one level, like, okay, you get 3 cups. First cup, no problem. Third cup, I don't know, I haven't really played it. Second cup, the very last zone. Now, please somebody tell me how to beat this, because every time I play that level, I keep dying over and over again because of this one ridiculous jump, and you don't get speed boost until the second lap. First lap, it's this one huge gap that you have to get through, and you have to hit a very specific point to get through that gap. So if anybody has played F-Zero, please tell me, please give me hints on how to beat that level. If you know what I'm talking about. It's like Silence 2, I think. But overall, well, a little bit dirty on the back. Yeah, F-Zero, besides that, is a classic. And you even get the little story right here. Did they have to do that? Probably not, but why not? Guys, I'm really pissed off at myself because I have not been collecting Super Famicom games for quite some while. And this one is kind of a mix of picking it up out of desperation and just because it looked really neat. This one is also kind of published by IREM, also mainly Telenet. This is a gambling simulator game called Parlor Mini 4. This is one of the most unique games I have in my collection. Again, the only one of its kind in my collection. I don't have any other gambling games other than Pocket Poker, but that's an LCD. They actually made multiple versions of these with different boards. It's one of these games where it's like it starts with one and then a bunch of them came after. And I assume that Japan loved their gambling games. As practice and just as a novelty, I think they're not a bad idea. If you're not betting real money and you just want to go through the fun of it, hey, you get in a little video game format. This one is a I'm gonna stop holding it so it doesn't rattle. This is a pachinko game, and if your ball lands in the middle, your slot machine goes down. Now, it's entirely luck based. So really, it's one of those games where if you just want to sit back, have a cold beer, and let the game play itself, you can do that. Very cheap, so I think it's a pretty neat addition to the collection, I must say. We're almost through, guys, and I think you're absolutely going to love the last one. But I think you're also going to love this one, and it is none other than Star Fox. Yes, the polygonal 3D FX chip classic itself. There can only be a few Super Nintendo games that I define to be the absolute greatest games on the 16-bit Super Nintendo, such as Mario All-Stars, Castlevania 4, and Star Fox, and as well as Super Metroid and Kirby Superstar. Even though half of those games I just mentioned I don't have just yet, Star Fox is a great game, but is one of those games I sometimes cannot really get into. I've beaten level 1. Think it's a good game. I think it's very solid. And granted, for the 16-bit Super Nintendo, it is a marvel what they did with the FX chip right here. Now, is it the best playing game on the Super Nintendo? No. No, and here's why. Some of the controls I have difficulty figuring out. You have to do the super barrel roll a few times to actually get used to it. But once you do, it's not a problem. Flying your chip feels a little bit clunky. It's kind of hard not to take damage when it's a little bit choppy in frame rate. Yes, I said it. It's a little bit choppy in frame rate. Again, language barriers aside, you'll play this one just fine. Guys, we are just about at the end of the video, but I got something extraordinary to show you. It is the Japanese version, the Super Famicom Super Game Boy. And wow, this thing looked better than the North American Super Nintendo Super Game Boy. As a matter of fact, these Super Famicom cartridges are beautiful compared to the Super Nintendo cartridge. But there is actually a bonus game I'd like to show you. This is Space Harrier for the Nintendo Game Boy. Now you see this little thing right here where it says Super Game Boy compatible. They did a lot of things like add borders and add some really cool effects most of the time to get the most out of your Game Boy games. Got an itch. if you put this in the Super Game Boy, like this, and turn it on, it'll show up with a menu, whether you want to play the Game Boy version in color or the Super Nintendo version of Space Invaders. I hope I said Space Invaders earlier and not Space Harrier, because that's a completely different game. So yes, this is also technically the Super Nintendo version of Space Invaders, which is just a straight port of the classic Space Invaders arcade game. Nothing really special there, but it does play pretty well. It's just your typical classic Space Invaders, really. But I think a lot of people hunt down this cartridge just to play it on the Super Game Boy alone, and I think it's one of those hidden games like the Atari 2600 version of Pitfall. So that's right, a couple of games in my collection are actually hidden. Like, they're not in a straight cartridge. You have to find tips and tricks to actually access these games, which just make the collection a lot more fun to play. And also, really quick, I scrapped this in the last video, but just for the hell of it, here's Mega Man Anniversary Collection on PS2, which has Mega Man 7, which is a Super Nintendo game. Yes, and these are the emulated versions of each Mega Man game, 1 through 8, and the 2 arcade titles. Classic Mega Man 7, just the straight up Super Nintendo version. Plays pretty well on the PS2. Actually, I'm afraid to get the GameCube version because as good as that controller is, I don't think the button layout is made for Super Nintendo gaming. Strangely enough, PlayStation, once upon a time, funny to bring this up actually, the PlayStation was initially going to be a Nintendo console via partnership with Sony, but they went off and created their own console. So, this just might be one of the closest things we have to a Nintendo PlayStation game. How crazy is that? Thinking about it now, I'm glad I saved it for this video. Okay, guys, that is gonna have to do it for today's video. I appreciate you guys watching. Have a great day. Hope your weekend's gonna go well, and goodbye now.